and then let's see what happens here. That's right.
Yeah.
It's like I should really have intro music or something to go along with this, but they can just hear our dulcet tones. Hey, I see our faces, so that's a good thing. Sorry, we're running a little late here today. This is the joy of scheduling with important people like Sharat. So we'll make it all work out, my man. Thank you for being. You're my second repeat guest. So I had
Oh my
Ken
God.
Cousin back, and then now I just. This is the way the schedule falls. You're back for repeat. So we if you don't know who Sharat is, you just go watch the previous episode. But what we didn't get a chance to get to last time was really poking and prodding at Java. And this is a subject near and dear to my heart. I'm wearing the 25 shirt today from DevNexus. And the kinds of stuff, yep, you got the Java logo floating overhead. Just imagine that. The thing that I really wanted to start getting into with you is just what do you think, or why do you think Java has been so successful? What is it about this community?
Oh boy.
And we talked a little bit about this last time, but user groups, Java user groups, such an important part of the community. And now we have meetups for everything. And I want to give Java user groups some of the credit for kind of normalizing that, but I wanted you to kind of riff on that and see what kind of trouble that gets us into today.
Uh, Good trouble. It's called good trouble.
Yes.
It's called definitely good trouble. But yeah, yeah, I gotta first say thank you for having me back. I didn't expect a encore invitation. I am deeply, deeply honored. It's always nice to know that there is trust in what you say, what you do, how you behave and act and react. And you've treated me with the utmost kindness since our first intersection way back when. And um, that's
Let's
actually
not talk about how old we are. Let's leave that for the
I,
gray
I'll,
in our beards.
I will, yeah, I'm gonna let the gray speak to that. But it's sort of like a segue into your question, which is why is Java so trusted, so in use today?
Yep.
You alluded to it a little bit, which is it's partly the people. Well, not partly. It is the people. Let's just say it. It is the people. It's the people working on the technology, some who have been around much longer than I have, starting from the day that it germinated in a petri dish and became what it is. And many of those very respected, trusted, and talented developers and engineers are still here working on the language and platform, and oftentimes go unnamed.
Yeah.
But they're not looking for the spotlight. They just love what they do. And I think that's part of it. You have people that have hundreds of years of collected experience, ensuring that it stays relevant.
Hmm.
And that's important. The other people side of it is what you just said. It is the community, it is the ecosystem, it is the users. What gives any technology viability? It's how it's used in practice. And I sometimes have to pinch myself to think about all the applicable places where Java is used. I mean, you might remember, Java made its way to Mars. It was helping,
Hmm.
with the remote control trajectory of signals that were being sent to the rover itself many, many, many years ago. You see it in aviation. You see it running financial systems. You see it running so many business in Wall Street. You see it being used in public sector. Use it in university settings and e-commerce and social. I mean, like there's no exhaustion of use cases, and that's because of the creativity of the people that
Yeah.
write applications. And why do they turn to Java? Well, performance, number one; stability, number two; security, number three; innovation, number four. And not in that order, but
Right.
all of them are four important vectors as far as why Java is relevant. And I sometimes have to take a pause because we sometimes get into this language war. We even touched upon it last time a little
Yeah.
bit, but like I I I prefer to stay away from battles and wars and which language, which framework, which platform is better than the next. And even though I love Java, live my life in Java, you have too,
Yeah.
is everything has relevance based on how you're using it. So I'm never going to discount someone else's use of something else. But for me, Java is so empowering, both as a language and the platform. The platform itself enables other languages to succeed in this
Yeah.
ecosystem, where they get to take advantage of all of the power of the virtual machine itself. And so it is the people, right?
Mhm.
We've become so innovative in how we utilize the technology. And it is a bit of a struggle, because we know Java's been around for now over 25 years. I can say over because we celebrated 25-year anniversary, that milestone, a couple years ago. It is, you have one camp that, likes pace that is thoughtful and incremental. And then you have developers who are like, I'm all about the cutting edge. I want to move as fast as I can. And as the leaders of the language and the platform and stewards of the ecosystem, we're kind of caught in that tipping point in the middle, which is like millions of users, hundreds of thousands of businesses that want to go thoughtfully forward incrementally. Then you have this whole new generation of developers and businesses that are looking at some of these modern application development environments, like, let's go fast as we can, and we want to be thoughtful. Like,
Right.
touched upon this last time, backwards compatibility is important. We want to rarely ever damage that, because if you're using anything older than Java 8 or older, which, let's thoughtfully think about that. Maybe it's time for you to upgrade, but still,
You are
even if
so diplomatic. I would say that in a very different way.
even if you are, I want to make sure your historical investments will still be able to take advantage
Right.
of newer releases. And so we've always approached it that backwards compatibility is mission critical to the success of Java. And in those extremely rare instances where compatibility is broken, extremely rare, it is for a specific reason, for a benefit of the future.
Right.
So, to your point, it is about the people. We have really talented engineers who oftentimes go unnamed, who understand the value, who continue to innovate and deliver, and ensure that what we're doing is thoughtful, methodical, and incremental. We have an ecosystem that's trusted that delivery, and because of the way what Java offers from those four vectors that I mentioned, there is what I would call infinite opportunities where Java has applicability. And sometimes we have, in that thoughtfulness, there may be other languages that are addressing very specific new programming models or development concepts. And that's okay. It's a learning opportunity for us here in Java to say, okay, what's out on the bleeding edge? Can we learn from it? You look at what's happening in kind of like the machine learning space, right? ML, a lot of times people say, oh, why isn't Java specifically focused on machine learning? Because we don't want to just focus on ML. We want to focus on everything.
Right.
But we want to take the best of what, some of the ideas of other technologies that cover that space, bring them into the fold, and evaluate where can we then have that broad coverage, because we don't want Java to be a one-trick pony. Do you want Java to be a one-trick pony?
No. Not particularly.
Nope. And then from the people standpoint, I can't hammer this home enough. The activity level in the ecosystem through things like you mentioned, the user groups, is where that knowledge transfer happens. Because I don't care if you're in different industries, best practices and use cases sometimes are transferable. And that's where some of the best learning happens.
Yes.
And I can't thank user group organizers enough for what they do. Like, yeah, we steward them and try to support them the best we can, but oftentimes people are doing this through individually or through a collection of peers that have cobbled together
labor of love.
It's a labor of, it absolutely is, right? And so I think there's at this point over 350 user groups globally,
Wow.
reaching somewhere around 1 million members,
Sure.
somewhere along the magnitude of 1 million. I mean, that's not trivial. That's not trivial. And in this era right now where we're in, where borders are closed and travel is
Yeah.
restricted, it's kind of opened up the opportunity to connect in a different way than never before. So for every user group organizers that are still hosting meetups in the virtual sense, you're attracting so many more developers to experience that opportunity. And when the world reopens, man, I'm looking forward to that, because
Me too.
as much as we love uh, the ability to connect digitally, we reinforce that physically, in the physical sense, peer to peer, face to face. One doesn't replace the other. In fact, they're very complementary and synergistic. And so that will happen. And I know for sure the Java team will be, visiting a user group local to you at some point in the future, versus just in the online sense, like what we're doing now. But I
Right.
can't discount this. This is so awesome.
There's pluses and minuses, right? And
Yeah.
funny you bring that up. I believe if I have my dates right, January I'll be in Atlanta for the Java user group there. AJUG talked me into coming down, so I'll be making the, for me, trivial trip to Atlanta from Minneapolis, hub to hub. So that'll be good to get out and stretch the legs a little bit. But yeah, I think that's a great point. The user groups are such a thriving part of this. And I do believe Venkat has spoken at probably 340 of the 350 user groups. I mean, I'm sure there's a few he's
I
missed, but
I
maybe
think
not.
I think it's 349.
Could be. It could be. Yeah, somebody just created a user group last week and he hasn't yet booked his travel, but he will. That's kind
So
of,
for folks who you're name dropping. I love it.
sorry.
I love it. Venkat Subramaniam, if folks who are tuning in and watching, if you do know him, you know who we're talking about. If you don't know him, probably one of the most trusted independent Java minds on not just this planet.
Yes. Yes. Within the solar
But
system.
probably in the solar system. He's based in Denver. He's a teacher at University of Houston. He also helps co-organize in some situations the Denver Java user group. But boy, does he command so much trust in the ecosystem and community, just because he's authentic, he's honest, he's truthful. I think all three vectors that we should all aspire to live by, and he sets a very high bar, which is fantastic.
Remarkably lifelike.
But yeah, exactly. And then something like, are you real?
Are you a simulation? Is this like a Westworld kind of thing? Yeah. So
Right.
Venkat was, I think, my second guest, if I remember, on BCAC. So you can go back and check the YouTubes if you want to see that conversation. But yeah, he's wonderful. I miss him dearly. I'm looking forward to being in the same meet space as him at some point here in the near-ish future. I don't know. I think things are better than the last time you and I talked, but
Yeah. But you're right. He is also active, and he takes a very pragmatic view into the technologies as well. And it says, here's here's the opportunity in front of you. No discount, no besmirching or slandering of anything else, because again, that is your choice. But in your collection of choices, here's how Java can offer you value. And that's why I personally hold Venkat as one of my most trusted friends and family in the ecosystem, as many of us do. So if you don't know Venkat, go look him up.
Yeah.
Follow him on social. I'm sure he will be making a visit to a Java user group local to you
Without a
at
doubt.
some point, probably for a repeat appearance.
Yes.
Not for not for a first time opportunity.
So let's touch a little bit on you mentioned Java 8. I know a new version dropped recently for some value recently. Can you dispel some of the myths around long-term support releases and the interim releases? I've seen some people say, "Oh no, we won't go through anything that's not an LTS," and I think there's a lot of misconceptions around kind of the versioning scheme.
I find it. I kind of chuckle when I hear someone say long-term support and interim releases. They are all feature releases.
Yeah.
Every single release is a stable, tested, trusted, production-ready release. It is up to you to decide which version you want to use. And let's use let's go back in history a little bit. Like, let's take Java 8, right? I oftentimes ask developers, what last long-term support release you're using? I mean, and oftentimes they'll say Java 8. I was like, really? You're using Java 8? Are you sure? Because every 6 months we came out with an update release. Java update, 20. Then after 6 months, 40. And after 6 months, 60. And there were update releases. And so as soon as each update release dropped, basically support for the previous update uh, is no longer supported. And so people have been keeping up every 6 months without them even realizing it.
Right.
Especially enterprises. So you went from 8U20 to 8U40 to 8U60 and so on and so on and so on until all public updates were exhausted. And then the next release came out, in this case, Java 9. And at Java 9, that was an interesting tipping point because we didn't want developers to have to wait. Originally, our promise was we will ship a new release of Java every 2 years. But how often did that happen?
Sure.
How often did that happen? And that was because what would end up happening is we would say, feature X, we are guaranteeing feature X will be made available in a specific release. Well, we all know how engineering works. When you make a commitment like that, as you're developing it, as you're doing all of that technology investment, dates shift. And, oftentimes that 2-year commitment became 3 years or longer. And so when you have something like that, where a feature is not ready and you're delaying a release, in the interim, you're also working on other things that are completed and that are ready to ship, and you can't get them in the hands of developers. And the reality is we live in a world where pace and innovation is happening at an increasingly fast pace.
Yep.
And so we wanted to be able to deliver all of that innovation that was done on a predictable cycle. And so, starting with Java 10, we started releasing Java every 6 months, like clockwork. And this isn't foreign for a lot of developers. I mean, you think about the Linux train.
Right.
And a lot of the influence is coming from that, where we want things to be predictable. We're no longer making a guarantee when a feature will be targeted for a release. When it's done, it's done. Because I oftentimes get asked, so when can I expect Loom, for example, all the richness, when is that going to be done? Is it going to be in 17? It's going to be in 18? Is it going to be it's going to be done when it's done. And whichever release it falls upon is when it's going to be made available. And so there was moving to 6 months just gives incremental innovation, because you're no longer getting hundreds of new features every 2 or 3 years. You're getting a very small subset every 6 months. And so the absorbability of that is almost trivial at this point, right? And so there's less shock on your system because the pace and because it's not about throughput, it's about reducing latency to access new features. So that's number one.
Great way of phrasing it, by the way.
It's the truth. The other thing that we learned was, there are companies, as I had mentioned, that like to methodically upgrade to another release. And so when we released the 6-month release cadence, there was a lot of enterprises that were, weren't ready to move to 6 months. And so we had this notion of long-term support, LTS releases. So, Java 17, which we just shipped in September.
Sounds about right.
People did the math. That was our next targeted LTS. And so what we learned from that is, from 11 to 17, there were a lot of companies that loved all of the incremental innovation that we're getting on the production ready releases in between, but they didn't want to wait 3 years. And so, with 17, we announced that LTS will now shift to 2 years, right? So instead of waiting 3 years, it's 2 years. Which is great. Like, that just makes the ability for companies to pick up production ready releases in between LTSs that much more approachable. And with every release of Java, we're already, Java is more free today than it's ever been. And a lot of times people will conflate this. And it was great that Java was free back in the 2000s. But that open source license, the BCL, was a bit restrictive. It said general purpose computing, laptop, desktop. If you wanted to put it in a smart printer or a kiosk or something with a very unique use case, you then had to license it. Well, with the GPL version 2 that came out just a few years ago on Java 9, there's no restriction. So Java is even more free than ever before. So we had Oracle OpenJDK, use it wherever you like, very open source friendly license. But we also know that enterprises like a bit of protection. So we had Oracle JDK. What's the difference between the two? It's the same. It's the same technology. Just one gives you a commercial license, which offered you commercial support. And I don't blame companies that want that. Like, you want to have the builders of the technology offering you air cover if something goes out that's mission critical. Like, what company doesn't offer commercial support for software? I mean, it's unfathomable to not have that. And so if you want to use Java for free and continue to use it free, Oracle OpenJDK is your route. If you need something that offers you a bit more commercial protection, Oracle JDK, they are the same thing, and then you can get commercial support through our subscription program. And so it's choice, and I appreciate choice. And with 17, we took an additional step to make it even more approachable. So Oracle JDK, you can now also get for free for 1 year past the next LTS, just so you can, pick up some of those production ready releases in between, just to make, to just make it a bit more approachable to that point for you. So, there, I always, and I do this personally for myself, like, there absolutely is in our technology industry fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I think that comes from us being so laser focused in what we're doing. We have our heads down that when we do take that peek up, we look at the first news source that comes up and says, oh my God, the sky is falling. I just read this and it says this, and oh my God, it's terrible. And I'm like, you got to look at, reliable news sources. Where are you getting information? Has it been explained? Are you going to just purely message boards to make your enterprise decisions? And I cringe when I see that, and I gotta tell you, the amount of email traffic that I directly get or DMs that I get, just purely on that fear and uncertainty, right? Like, and if there is concern, there's places where you can go where there is actual factual information and truth and justice in the development way.
Right. But I want to push a little bit. You made a great point about so that the feature releases, it's a smaller surface area, and it's less for you to get your head wrapped around, and it's easier for you to see, oh, okay, here's the 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever number of features. Oh, wow, I can actually start incorporating this on my application today. As opposed to getting this encyclopedic list of changes and being like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start on this. And so I think that's another aspect of this that people sometimes lose sight of, that, if you make those smaller intermediate steps, a lot easier, less risk, in my opinion, on trying to do the upgrade, easier for you to get your head wrapped around, and again, more incrementally add those features into your applications where they make sense.
Yeah, there's also some additional benefits too. Irrespective of what new features are delivered in any new release, you're already getting performance, stability, security enhancements right out of the box. So just by upgrading, your applications are going to be able to garner the benefit of performance boosts just by irrespective of the new features that you can start taking advantage of. The second thing is, we've been very thoughtful about this and been trying to help the overall ecosystem, because I know a lot of companies and businesses and developers, it's not the upgrade that's the issue. It's that they have third-party dependencies that they've been reliant on that have not been upgrading, which, by the way, if you have things running in production and you don't know what your dependencies are, I don't know what to tell you. But maybe you want to start thinking about who is maintaining those.
Your problem is downstream.
Yeah, like who's maintaining those tools, libraries, and frameworks, and how often have they been upgrading and patching them and ensuring that they're stable. Like that's important. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just can't implement something and become dependent on it without putting some thought into it. So we get that. And so we have been working with multiple library tools and framework vendors. In fact, through our OpenJDK project, we have a quality outreach program such that it allows many of these maintainers of those types of projects the ability to garner the help from our team. And you can go to the OpenJDK project and just look at the catalog of tools, libraries, and frameworks that are stable.
Yeah.
And we want to do that, right? Because it's not the version of Java you're using. It's all of those dependencies that are reliant on it, and it's important we help out and assist, and that's part of our stewardship that we want to ensure is out there. So it is kind of interesting. Like I've many a customer call walked into, and it's like, we have these issues with Java. And I'm like, wait, hold on, that's a pretty broad statement.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Let's unpack
back
that.
let's unpack it. Let's peel back the onion. Let's reveal what's behind like. There's so many analogies to that, but like it's not Java. It's literally what you become dependent on top of Java, and that's where a lot of the conversation then becomes a bit more fruitful. And then they see the opportunity. It's like, aha, okay, let me start making sure I've taken inventory of that and not lose sight of all of the benefits that Java is actually giving me out of the box. And the quality outreach program to me is like one of those hidden gems that we collectively at Oracle need to talk more about, because it is definitely helpful, because that's where a bit of the trust comes from, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, okay, look at all of these, different tooling vendors that are now stable. I have trust in those dependencies that I've made a choice on, or the framework, or the live. It's just it's a feel good moment.
So we do have one question from the chat, and I got a pretty good idea how you're going to answer this one. But DoCU5 says, when are we going to get green threads?
When it's ready.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that.
No prompt. By the way, you gave me no prompt on that. It's ready when it's ready. Like the thing that we oftentimes miss, and I'm saying the general we, is Java is more transparent than it's ever been. I seriously want to hammer this point home with everyone who's watching or who might hear this replay, is the OpenJDK project is as transparent as you can get. I mean, I encourage everyone to go to the OpenJDK project, look at the various, projects that are in flight. Our mail lists are open. You can look at the code check-ins, the decision-making that's being done, and follow through on what the status is on any of these various projects that have a future opportunity in what we deliver. And, on top of it, in many of our releases, we'll oftentimes have preview features. Gives you a chance to kind of kick the tire. Preview feature is something that's extreme. It's in our minds, it's done. We just want a little bit more feedback.
Sure.
In production, we have incubators. Like want to see, in some cases what direction that may be going in, because that feedback allows us to make more educated decisions down the road. And this wasn't there prior to Java 9.
Sure.
The ability for you to have, early access builds, for example, like, oh my God, I get to test something out in my, before it's actually made as general availability. I mean, if you are not kicking the tires on early access builds, shame on you. Come on, here's your chance to to ensure that everything is stable once you're ready to do that. To do that upgrade to a new version. We're trying to make this as easy as possible. We really are. Early access program, preview features, incubator features, open mail lists, open projects, just transparency in general, quality outreach program. There's all of these, what I would call hidden facets to this diamond that shame on me, shame on us for not talking about more. We just need to do more of that. And I
Yeah,
think there will become more of a comfort level with the direction that Java is going. And by the way, for the most part, there's a huge comfort level.
sure.
I mean, again, you just look at, tens of millions of Java developers, hundreds of thousands of businesses. The next 25 years and beyond, I think, look extremely bright,
Yeah,
extremely bright.
yeah.
It just does.
Well, and to your point, managing currency is a hard problem. And it's one of those we love to ignore because it's a lot funner to just, hey, let's go build something new. We're going to go work on
Yep.
something new and cool. We got to think about our dependencies. We have to think about what does it take to move this application forward. I hear this a lot. Oh, we're a big ship. Well, then you better start turning now. And so there's a little bit, we need to take some of that responsibility of how do we make sure that we're doing this incrementally so that it isn't a big bang kind of a thing. And we're like, oh my God, we're now really afraid of it. And so I think we have some agency here too. It isn't just,
We do collectively as an ecosystem know that our specific unique use case isn't what's unique to everyone else. There
Mhm.
are hundreds of thousands of use cases that we have to thoughtfully navigate and manage and ensure that we're doing what's best for as much of the ecosystem
Yes.
as possible,
Yes.
and not narrow the focus of Java into one specific development type. Because then we take away from what the true value of Java is, and it goes back to that notion of thoughtfulness versus innovation.
Hmm.
Because if you're too thoughtful and not fast enough, you are hated.
Yeah.
If you're too innovative and not thoughtful,
You're
you're
hated.
hated. And
Yeah.
so oftentimes we're the most hated person in the room. But I think it's a very fine line between love and hate.
Well, and that's a tough needle to thread though, too, because
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I know we talked about this last time, but Brian and I had that conversation when lambdas were kind of getting kicked around, and how do you add that in? And the sort of armchair language designers out there are like, well, that should be trivial. And it's like, well, you're right. The feature itself that you're dying for might not be that big of a deal to add. It's how it plays with every other thing that's already been there, that's been there for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And it's that interrelationship. And that's the same as software. You think, oh, this is an easy feature. And you're like, oh, wait, it pops this thing up over here. I never saw that connection. It's even harder, in my opinion, at language design. And when you're trying to make sure that you don't break thousands and thousands and thousands of applications, it adds a little bit of complexity to the equation. You can't just jam it in and, move fast and break things. That doesn't work very well, frankly.
No, in fact, I cringe when I hear that mantra. Um, I prefer to move thoughtfully and build things.
Yeah.
I wish there was an easy way to say that, because that just doesn't roll off the tongue. But
I mean,
we
that
try
sounds
to
pretty good, buddy. I
we
think.
we try to move thoughtfully and build things. Breaking things to me just makes me cringe,
Mhm.
on personal and professional levels. But for us is, and the collective us here on the Java team is, whatever we do add has to then be supported for a very long time,
Right.
and maintained for a very long time, as well it should be. And so anything that we do put in, we have to be extremely thoughtful about.
Mhm.
Um, and when we do reach that point of, has it outlived its value, even then we're extremely thoughtful, because we don't want to just rip something out, because you just don't know where all of the tendrils are, right? And so even when we tend to, I shouldn't say tend, because there always come a time when you have to do thoughtful pruning.
Yeah. You got to rip off the Band-Aid.
You don't want to do that. And it's just like, I love my son, because he's into like this whole the value of what nature and ecosystems are all about. And he was teaching me that trees have life and longevity when you prune them thoughtfully. You just don't cut a branch off randomly. You have to
Mhm.
know when to do it, where to do it, how much to do it. And technology is almost like a tree. Like,
Yeah.
where is that thoughtful pruning happening? How are you preparing the tree for that pruning? And so off, when we reach that point of removal, we've already had a plan for deprecation. We let users know there's a future point in time when this is going to be removed. Here's your opportunity to start planning for it. We give you a trajectory. We offer you tools like JDepRescan to take inventory of your application, so what's targeted for eventual removal. I mean, these are all things that we don't want a developer to be scared about. Inherently we have and we don't talk about tools enough, like JDepRescan, all of the JPackage, JLink. The platform itself is just enriched with tools to make you productive, and it's just not about utilizing Java from the language sense to write something. We want to make sure you have a robust set of tools there as well. I mean, let's simplify things for you.
Yeah, and you also, this is something I think about a lot as an architect, that certain projects just have a different ability to consume some of that change too. And I think that's another
Yes.
part of this, that the thoughtful word keeps showing up for a reason,
Yeah.
because not every project can afford every couple of weeks. Oh yeah, let's just rip that out and rewrite it, and let's just yeah, we'll spend 6 months doing this. Like we got to get features and functionality out there, and we just don't have the luxury of that sort of constant upgrade cycle. So I think that's an important part of this too. Is again, it's that whole interplay, interaction between these different moving parts, that it is a tough needle to thread, and it's easy, again, as the armchair architect, armchair language designer, to lob grenades. Well, we could do it better, and it's like, you think so? I mean, you have to try. Good luck. It's just, I wish people understood more of that complexity. Instead of being so
But you
glib
know what?
about it.
It's okay. Because I know where sometimes that feedback and opinion is coming from. It's rooted from a place of wanting to share ideas, and
Sure.
I'm all about you know the opportunity for our ecosystem to express that.
Yeah.
And in that same way of expression is our ability to offer perspective, and that's okay. We should be able to have what I would call spirited debates that are not hurtful, and and
Yes.
and that's okay. But at the end of the day, the choices that we end up making is meant to be what's best for um, something that sometimes goes beyond just you.
Yeah.
You may not be able to realize that. It's like, oh, but this doesn't do something for me.
Yeah.
Um, but we're tens of millions of developers, hundreds of thousands of businesses, millions of lines of codes, hundreds of thousands of applications. That's quite a daunting responsibility.
Right.
Um, and it's okay. We get it. The target's on our back. We take it on the chin. But we want to be professional and embracive as much as we can with the feedback we get.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, it should be a give and take. It should be a two-way traffic, because that's where some of the best ideas come from. But we also need to have, I guess, that maturity to remember that it ain't just about me. It's not my private language, and
Oh,
and
but if you want to participate,
please
you're
do.
welcome. You please do. At the Open JDK project, we have various levels of participation, from just being, reading mailing lists, to something from being a contributor to an author. There are levels of participation there. So, if you feel as though you want to be more active than offering an idea, there is a path for that. Please, we welcome and encourage you. Please go take a look at the Open JDK project and select the roles that you believe you are willing to roll up your sleeves on. that is something that if you want to go beyond just expressing on a mail list, there is a path for that.
So we talk about Java now being, I guess it's a young adult. I guess, is that what we call, mid-20s? It's not quite fully formed. I don't know. Age is such a weird thing, but I had the luxury of growing up with Java, and so I watched Java grow from when the Nutshell book was, a couple hundred pages, to the giant tome. Do you have any advice for somebody who's getting started on Java today? How do you, because there's a lot of surface area there.
There
What
is.
do you
my
start with?
my my goodness. So where so that is a challenging question to answer in one sentence, or in 5 minutes.
Probably should have started there. I apologize.
But that's okay. But there are beginning areas.
Sure.
Most recently, we here on the Java advocacy team launched dev.java. Point your browsers to dev.java. Dev.java is a new learning portal with up-to-date tutorials of various levels of your experience with programming as a place to go and continue to advance your skills. And we continue to add more content there, new educational material. And we want that to kind of be the place where developers of all kind who want to explore Java, whether you're new to it or experienced, can go to continue to refine your craft.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely encourage folks to go to and look at dev.java for the actual hands-onness of it. You can also turn to inside.java. Oh my God, another .java top-level domain. Inside.java is our place to share the news and updates that come from the actual engineers that are building Java every day, right? So you actually hear from and read from those engineers. We have a podcast series as well, the Inside Java podcast. So inside.java/podcast. So if you want to change, your format of delivery, sometimes we just want to listen to it. We have interviews all the time. We've been updating our YouTube channel. So youtube.com/Java. A lot of new videos that we're adding to that, because there's no one right place. I think learning comes in many formats and channels and
different modalities work for different people.
For sure. So youtube.com/Java, your local Java user group. And if you don't know who your local Java user group is, you can go to dev.java. We have a community section that lists out all of the active Java user groups there, and give you a link to go and make contact with them. So another place to go. I cannot say how important it is from a conference perspective, and I know we're not there yet, but some conferences are coming back into play physically, but still, I've never seen the proliferation of Java conferences in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament to just how in demand Java is.
Yeah.
Because nary a month doesn't go by where I'm learning about yet a new regional Java event that's occurring currently online and may end up manifesting itself in the physical sense. And
right.
Let me give credit to a few because it's important. The Netherlands Java user group just had their JFall, which is one of the best in-person. It used to be a one-day event, and I used to call it the best 3-day Java conference in one day. And it was literally like 3 days of information all in one day. And granted, for COVID, they were doing some stuff online and then moved to hybrid, but they just had their physical conference in the Netherlands just finished up. I think they're in the process of posting some of the sessions online. So kudos to the Netherlands Jug for doing that. Coming up in Oslo, so Java Bin, which you're going to Java, you're going to Java Zone.
That's the plan.
Is it safe to? Has the State Department allowed us to go there yet?
I think in theory, I guess we'll. The things change every couple of days, so I'm not holding my breath, but I'm guardedly optimistic. And my cat's gonna play with the blinds. That's nice of you, Kitty. Thank you, Chewy.
Yeah,
Chewy says hi.
There you go. How are you? Java Bin, which is a collection, I think, of 7 Java user groups in the Nordic region, is hosting Java Zone in Oslo.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Which I've gone in the past. If any of you in the community have not been to Java Zone or JFall, please put it. I hope you have the ability or resources to attend. It's one thing to experience it online. It's a whole nother level to actually be in the presence of just the sheer horsepower of knowledge of experts that are there. And then, coming up in calendar year 2022 is another Nordic conference, which is global though, which is JFocus.
Yeah,
that happens.
Good point.
Happens in Stockholm. And, some people might say, well, why would I want to go to Stockholm in February? For JFocus.
Right.
you will be shocked at how many people actually go, not just regionally, but globally,
Right.
to JFocus. So, my kudos to Matthias Carlson for continuing forward with JFocus. And then, there's just a whole slew of more Java conferences that are in play. And I'm sure all of us who might be watching and listening or replaying this at some point, you will be able to find an event.
Yes,
So
you will.
yes, all those modalities of learning, dev.java, inside.java, openjdk.java.net, youtube.com/Java, Java user groups, Java conferences. Like I can't even begin. I mean, we can explore each of those for hours upon hours of just how much learning knowledge each of those modalities like serve up.
Yeah,
Really.
maybe this will just have to become a quarterly thing. We'll just get you on repeat, and then we can touch base, because we're already at the top of our time here, and I know you got to run, and
I do have to run, but before I say that, like
yeah.
for all of us who have such a passion for programming, if you want to start, adolescence in sort of like that opportunity to learn about the value of programming, especially in some of the methodology with Java programming, is the Alice project
Okay.
by Carnegie Mellon University. So Alice Project is one of those just amazing learning resources that a learning institution has developed that's free.
Yeah.
And God bless everyone at Carnegie Mellon who had worked on this, who continue to innovate on the Alice Project. What a great resource for children to just go and start building up the skill sets that they will eventually need, because I don't care what industry you're in or you select, technology is going to touch it in some way, shape, or form. And in fact, I think every business out there is now a technology company.
Oh, 100% agree. 100% agree. Yeah.
You
No,
just
I'm
are.
with you there. Yeah. Whether it's convenient or not, doesn't matter. Sorry. Yeah.
You are. Yeah, I think there's just one industry now. It's the technology industry.
Yes. It's very convenient for us at least, but maybe not for others. But well, I thank you so much for being a repeat guest. I appreciate that so much. You've been very
Sure.
generous with your time. Maybe we'll probably have to do this again in 22, and I hope we run into each other soon. I feel like we're getting closer to that actually happening. So, fingers crossed. We'll be back next week or I guess 2 weeks, with Chief Scientist Jim Weber from Neo4j. So I guarantee Doctor Who is going to come up. I should mention Ted Lasso before we leave, because I think I'm contractually required to say Ted Lasso in every single episode, or Neil will get mad at me. So I'll throw that out there. But thank you again, my friend. I very much appreciate your time.
I appreciate it.
Have a
Thank you
great
for everyone
star.day.
Yeah, the star.day, because you were asking me at the top of the hour, what's your favorite day of the week? And I'm like, every day. So Monday, Sunday, Wednesday, doesn't matter. Star.day is my favorite day. And for everyone that's now watching or who might see the replay, appreciate all your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, buddy.